Part 2, Chapter 21, It Never Rains on Monday. Thursday, March 28, 1935. The entire month of February and half of March, it rains. Drizzling rain, driving rain, lightning storms and thunder. Big, fat, sloppy drops, little misty ones, and the kind that sting when they come down. It rains every darn stupid day, except baseball day. Monday after Monday dawns bright and clear like some kind of baseball spell. Every Monday I see Scout and them warming up on my way to the boat. I walk by without even looking. On Alcatraz, there's nothing to do, no one to do it with, and nothing to look forward to either. I haven't even been thinking about Pete all that much. He isn't much of a letter writer, and it doesn't look like I'll be going home anytime soon. Hard to keep up a friendship if you never hear from a person. Annie goes to church with her mom every day. I didn't know it was possible to go to church that much. Piper's off the island living with her grandma on Nob Hill. Annie says that's because she got in trouble too, but Piper says it's because she's sick to death of us. Mostly, I'm glad she's gone. It makes everything easier. I don't even see her much at school now. She's got her own friends, and slowly, day by day, I have mine. Besides, who wants to talk to Piper? Every time I see her, she tells me how much fun she's having living in San Francisco. How irritating is that? My dad gave me back my gloves and my baseball in the middle of February, but with no one to play with, it hasn't done me a whit of good. Tried one day to get some guys to play with me at lunch, but without Scout, they wouldn't. Jimmy was the only one of us who didn't get in trouble. His mom was just so busy with the new baby, I guess she forgot. Or maybe she knew him well enough to know it wasn't his idea. Still feel awful about the stuff with my dad. I can't stand it and he thinks I let him down. But every time I try to talk to him about it, he says, water under the bridge, Moose, let's move on. The only thing that saved me from going completely nuts is bowling. I never thought I'd care about bowling. You roll a ball and knock things over. What kind of a sport is that? But apparently I'm desperate because whenever Teresa's mom doesn't need her to help with baby Rocky, we take Natalie down to the bowling alley in the officers club. It's embarrassing to spend all your time with a 7-year-old girl, but Jimmy is always fiddling with his mechanical devices. So what am I supposed to do? And then there's Natalie. She hasn't had a fit since the day we got in trouble with the warden more than 2 months ago now. Not one. And though I let her have her buttons or her rocks, or at the officers club her toothpicks, she seems easier and more present. I've met Mrs. Kelly now a couple of times. She's a short, round ball of a woman with a sturdy build and hair the color of plumbing pipes. I didn't like the way she looked at me, as if she was trying to find something wrong. In fact, I overheard her telling my mom that sometimes there is more than one kid affected in the same family. There's nothing wrong with me, you old coot, I felt like screaming in her ear. I didn't, of course. I'm always polite. But even my mother was upset at this comment. Don't let Moose fool you, she said. He's smarter than he looks. What is it with me that even my own mother thinks I look stupid? Another funny thing is how used to living on an island with a bunch of criminals I am. It would seem strange to live with regular people after this. Even when I saw the convicts unload the laundry from the boats, it was boring. Nothing to say about it, really. I got tired of watching after a minute or two. And then finally, in late March, the weather broke. It got sunny and warm, and there were wildflowers poking up through every crack in the cement. That's when Piper came back to Alcatraz to live, and Annie's mom returned to their twice-a-week church schedule. Here comes trouble, my dad said when he saw Piper back. He's right, too. It's like the last 2 months haven't happened for her. Her head is full of just as many schemes as it was before. On the way home from school today, she called a meeting on the parade grounds. When Nat and I got there, I could already tell Piper was up to something. What is it? I demand. I'm not telling until everyone's here. Nobody's going to do what you say anymore, you know. Nobody wants to get in trouble, I say. Nobody's going to get in trouble. That's what you said last time. This isn't against the rules. You said that last time too. Why is it I'm responsible for everything? She asked as she waves to Teresa, Jimmy, and Annie to hurry up. I roll my eyes. Sunday, she announces, when we're settled in our private spot at the top of the west stairs, we've all got to be on the 9:30 boat to the city and return on the 10. A round trip? Why? I ask. Al Capone's mama is coming to Alcatraz. She's scheduled for the 10 a.m. run from Fort Mason. Piper shakes her head and sighs. How did you survive here without me? How do you know about this? I ask. I have my ways, Piper says. She stuffs a stick of gum in her mouth and shoves the pack back in her pocket without offering any of us a piece. Which are, I ask. I read Al's mail. I get to read everything, even the stuff he doesn't get to see. He gets a lot of letters from people asking for money that my mom mails back. Cons are only supposed to get letters from relatives. How come your mom gets to do it? My dad trusts her. Doesn't want Capone's business all over the street, I say. Piper nods. This morning I read a letter from May Capone. That's Al's wife. She looks at me as if I'm the only one who wouldn't know that. She said Al's mama is scheduled to be on the boat March 31, 10 a.m. run. Piper has a big smug smile on her face. She's waiting for us to tell her how clever she is. Smart, Jimmy says. Piper takes a bow. 31st, 10 a.m., 31st, 10 a.m., Natalie says. But won't we get in trouble for this? She shrugs. We're allowed to take the boat whenever we want. What could we get in trouble for? I try to figure out how this could get us in trouble. I can't come up with anything. Nothing at all. I'm bringing Rocky, Teresa announces. This is going to be history. He has to be there. What's past is always history, stupid, Jimmy says. And you're not bringing Rocky. Mom will never let you. Where I go, he goes, Teresa announces. He's not here now, is he? Jimmy asks. Hold it, Piper commands, her palm raised high. Jimmy's right. Don't bring the baby. Annie, can you get out of church? Annie shakes her head. I doubt it, she says. Piper looks down. She rolls her tongue. She rolls her tongue around in her mouth. Could if you wanted to. Annie's nostrils flare out. She says nothing. Moose, are you going to bring, Piper dips her head towards Natalie, who is sitting quietly, dragging her fingers along a patch of moss. No offense or anything, Piper flashes her fake smile, but I don't think you should. You know what? That's none of your business, I shoot back. I decide about Natalie, not Piper. Chapter 22, Al Capone's Mama, Sunday, March 31st, 1935. When the 9:30 boat pulls up, Piper is dressed for charm school. White gloves, white hat, pink sweater, pink hair ribbon. Where's Teresa? I ask Jimmy as we climb on board. Not coming, Jimmy says. Teresa must have decided that if Rocky can't come, she's not going either. She's pretty possessive about him. It's always as if she gave birth to that baby herself. On the boat, we head straight for the front, where none of us usually stand. I want to be the first to see Al Capone's mom, waiting at the dock at Fort Mason. When the boat starts moving, we lean against the rail, straining to see the city in the hazy morning. It's a while before we see much of anything, but finally we make out the dock and the little specks of color that seem like they are people. One of those dots is the mother of public enemy number 1. I think when I hear a faint wailing behind me. What's that? I ask Piper as the crying gets louder, and then out of the cabin comes Teresa, carrying a howling baby wrapped in a blue crocheted blanket. Rocky's whole face is red like butcher meat. His cries are loud enough to make dogs go deaf. Jimmy, what's Rocky doing here? Piper barks. Jimmy, help me, Teresa cries. How did you get on? Jimmy asks. Mom is going to kill you. Who says she has to know? Teresa whines. Now calm him down. She shoves the screaming infant in his arms, which only makes Rocky cry even louder, though I wouldn't have thought it was possible. Mom walks him, Teresa orders. Jimmy tries walking Rocky up and down the rocking boat. He's a big baby and Jimmy doesn't seem to have good grip. Don't drop him, Jimmy. Teresa scrambles after him, trying to tuck his chubby little legs back in the blanket. My grandma once told me that babies love the gentle sway of cars and boats, but not Rocky. When the boat pulls up to the dock, the baby is crying so loudly, Mrs. Madiman can probably hear him on Alcatraz. The small group of people waiting on the dock at Fort Mason, there's only one woman who could be Teresina Capone. She's the old Italian woman with a big ruddy face and white, gray, wavy hair. Mrs. Capone has a thick build, round shoulders, and a dark, old-fashioned lace-up clothing that looks hot and uncomfortable. I thought she'd be blonde, wearing expensive furs, or flashy like her son in a canary yellow cape. She looks like anyone's grandma. As soon as Mrs. Capone comes on board, Piper claims the bench next to her and I sit behind them. Hello, Piper holds her hand out to Mrs. Capone. My name is Piper Williams. Pleased to meet you. Mrs. Capone ignores her. She reads a letter which she holds so close to her face, it seems like it would make her cross-eyed. I don't know if this is because she can't see well or because she's trying to keep its contents from prying eyes, but whatever the reason, it's an effective block. Excuse me, Piper tries again. Excuse me. She drops her small pink purse on Mrs. Capone's toe. Oh, forgive me, she cries. Mrs. Capone looks down at her toe and then up at Piper in surprise. I hope Piper didn't have anything heavy in there. Doesn't seem like a good idea to break the poor lady's toe. Mrs. Capone picks up the handbag and gives it back to Piper. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. Terribly clumsy of me, Piper says. As long as I have your attention, I was wondering, but it's too late. Mrs. Capone has her nose back in her letter. Behind me, I hear Rocky wind up another howl. Mrs. Capone hears him too. Her head turns to the sound. When she sees Rocky, her whole face seems to light up like somebody flicked a switch in her head. Mrs. Capone, Piper says, apparently forgetting she isn't supposed to know her name. Let me introduce you to baby Rocky. Mrs. Capone ignores Piper. She's already on her way to Teresa, who is struggling with the howling infant, while Jamie hops on one foot singing Farmer in the Dell. Mrs. Capone is standing next to Teresa now. Oh, BB, she coos to Rocky. Then she taps Teresa lightly on sleeve. Me? She offers. Teresa has been so busy with Rocky, she hasn't figured out that this is Al's mom. She happily hands Rocky over to Mrs. Capone. Jimmy hesitates. He seems unable to decide what to do. Mrs. Capone takes Rocky in her arms and rocks him gently and wide like a large cradle. Almost immediately, as if by some spell, Rocky stops crying. Mrs. Capone keeps rocking, her smile broad and sweet. Mrs. Capone! Piper won't give up, but Mrs. Capone ignores Piper and everyone else. She's busy singing a soft, sweet lullaby in what I'm guessing is Italian. As far as she's concerned, there's no one else on the boat but that black curly-haired baby. She sings him all the way to Alcatraz. When the boat docks, baby Rocky is asleep. Mrs. Capone sighs. She hands the peacefully sleeping infant back to Teresa Madiman. Then the light in her face goes dark, and she gathers herself together and walks slowly forward. Officer Johnson meets her and speaks with her for a moment, though Mrs. Capone's blank look makes me wonder if she understands any English at all. Then he leads her through the metal detector snitch box, which blares its sharp alarm bell. Oh, Teresa cries. For crying out loud, Jimmy whistles. The old lady's got a piece. She's going to break him out, Piper cries, her mouth hanging open in complete surprise. My God, Rocky, are you all right? Teresa holds him close. What were you thinking, giving him to her? Jimmy hollers at Teresa. Mrs. Capone says something. I can't understand the Italian words, but it seems like she's begging him not to do something. Officer Johnson's billy club is out. He points for her to follow. Officer Johnson and now Officer Trixel escort her to a small storage room under the dock. Other guards press close. And Officer Bomini up in the tower trains his Thompson on Mrs. Capone. A minute later, Officer Johnson comes out. Jimmy, your mom speaks Italian. Run, get her, fast. When Teresa hears this, she scoots up the hill with Rocky. She's just out of sight when Mrs. Madiman comes down the stairs wearing shoes but no stockings, a hat but no sweater. She half runs down the stairs to the dock and disappears inside the storeroom. We wait, hanging around as close as the 3 guards will let us. When Officer Johnson and Mrs. Capone finally come out, she's all messy looking like she dressed in a hurry. Her eyes are cast down. Mrs. Madiman speaks Italian to her. Her voice is kind. Mrs. Capone shakes her head. She won't look up. Instead of getting into the waiting truck to go up to the hill to the cell house, Mrs. Capone gets back on the boat. Later, we learned that Mrs. Capone had been strip searched to find her weapons. There were none. The medal stays on her old-fashioned corset, set the snitch box off. And try as she might, Mrs. Madiman could not convince the terrified Mrs. Capone that this humiliation was the last. I can't get over this. I keep thinking about when Al Capone was a baby. I'll bet his mama sang him the same song she sang to Rocky. I'll bet she held his hand when they crossed the street, packed his lunch for school, and sewed his name in his jacket, A. Capone, so everyone would know it was his too. I'll bet she wishes she could do it all over again too. If only Al were little and she could. Chapter 23, She's Not Cute. Tuesday, April 2nd, 1935. In English class, Miss Bimps pairs Scout and me together for a journalism project. And just like that, we're friends again. We start talking about who we think will win the World Series this year. And the next thing I know, he's put a game together at lunch. He doesn't make a big deal out of it. Neither do I. If it weren't for the fact that my throwing arm is rusty and my timing sucks, I would be happy. But what do I expect? All I've done for the past 2 months is bowl. Then on the way back to class, Scout says, I'll trade you my extra glove for one of those convict baseballs. You find one of them yet? Not exactly. Piper said they just come sailing over the wall. He does a whistling imitation of a ball in flight. She made it sound like everyone on Alcatraz has one. When you talk to Piper anyway, I ask as I stop to tie my shoes. Scout waits for me. Sometimes we talk in French class. How come you don't want to look for one? I don't know. I leave my book bag over my shoulder and walk on. She said maybe she could get me one. Maybe, Scout says. I stop and stare at him. How come you're so friendly with her all of a sudden? He shrugs. Kind of cute, don't you think? No, I say. Scout doesn't say anything. He throws his glove in the air and catches it. She's not cute, I glare at him. Fine, she's not cute. What are you so ticked off about anyway? I'm the one who's supposed to be sore, you know. I kick at the grass. I don't blame you for being burnt up. Piper said your sister is different. She said nobody ever watches her but you. He looks quick at me and then away. I shrug. Look, I just like to have one of those baseballs, he says. They look just like any other baseball. Oh, so you do have one. No, I don't. This comes out louder than I meant it to. I've seen Jimmy's, that's all. Well, if they're laying around, I thought you could pick one up for me. You know, if we're friends. Of course we're friends, I say. Sure, I'll find you one. I smile at him. In history class, my teacher, Mr. Berger, begins discussing the Louisiana Purchase, and I sit and stew. It's not Scout I'm thinking about, though. It's Scout and Piper. Do they sit next to each other in French class? How come I haven't heard about this? I knew they were friendly, but I didn't know that they were that friendly. I think about this through history and all of math class. I think about it all the way home. When my mother leaves, I unroll the sleeves of my shirt, button them at the cuffs, and I grab Natalie's jacket. There's poison oak on this island, and I don't want us to get it. Okay, Nat, let's go. I open the door, all business today. I head up the stairs, Nat scuffing along behind me, pulling at her sweater like her shirt sleeve is caught up inside. Hey, Nat, I say, doubling back so I'm walking next to her. As soon as I do, she stops dead in her tracks and refuses to move forward until I go first. Nat is a single file girl. What do you think of Mrs. Kelly? I ask. I'm walking around to the windy west side of the island now, craning my neck back to hear what she says. 9868, Natalie answers. 9868, what does that mean? Oh, yes, that's Mrs. Kelly's address. Yes, exactly, 9868. No buttons, Missy, Natalie says. I look down at the water. There are almost waves today, like the bay is trying very hard to be at the ocean. Right, I know, she won't let you play with your buttons, but there's something odd about the way Nat says no buttons. Now buttons, Missy. Natalie tries again, and this time I hear it. She's doing an imitation of the way Mrs. Kelly talks. Natalie has made a joke. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard. For a second, I think I see Natalie smile too, or maybe I've just imagined it. It's that quick. I want to grab Natalie, hold her here with me, keep her from going down again. I just love talking to her this way. And then the thought occurs to me, is Mrs. Kelly helping? So Nat, I say, like I would to a normal sister, what would you think about two people who talk all the time in French class? Two people talk, she says. Yeah, exactly. She stops and looks at me, right at me. Then it's almost as if she shrugs. Okay, so I'm probably wrong, but I like thinking this, even if it's not true. Okay, Nat, I say, eyeing the backyard wall through the chain link fence and straight up the hill from us. We're looking for a baseball. I wait for the goals to quiet down. You know, like mine, right? A line drive down the center. I smile. That's right. We look for the baseball in the bushes here. Natalie, look for baseball, I say. Natalie looks up in the sky as if it's going to fall from there. Well, not exactly. You look down here. I poke around in the bushes, showing her what I want her to do. Natalie runs her tongue over her lip as if this takes all the concentration she has. Okay, follow me. I shimmy up the steep hill sideways and begin picking through the thicket of bushes. I try to walk in pattern. Natalie likes patterns. Maybe she'll follow along. But it's difficult to keep to it because the bushes are thick. I look up at the yard wall again. My dad said the baseball diamond is in this corner. I scramble on through the underbrush. Natalie isn't following. She's sitting down on the side of the hill with a pile of pebbles. She's setting them up almost like an abacus. I wonder what she's doing. It seems complicated, but it looks like it's more fun than getting scratched by bushes looking for a baseball. Sometimes Natalie is saner than I am. I finish searching one patch, then look up at the chain link fence that separates where I'm allowed to go from where I'm not. My eyes follow the chain link all the way up to where it hits the cement yard wall. I can see the guard tower now, but I don't think the guard can see me. I look down at Natalie. She's totally absorbed in her stones. I don't want Piper to find a ball for Scout. I don't know why, but I don't. I renew my search, looking inside every bush, kicking aside the leaves underneath. I'm right up against the chain link fence now. The rec yard wall is solid cement, maybe 16 feet high. But right where the chain link meets the cement wall, I see a gap. The hillside has crumbled away, leaving a space between the fence and the mountain. Is this new? Did the mountain erode in all the rain? My heart beats loud in my throat. I look down at Natalie. She hasn't moved a muscle. I won't be able to see her once I get up there, but I know better than to try to move her once she's all set up. I'll just make it quick, that's all. A couple of seconds to look. 1 minute, that will be enough. A ball could be sitting right there out in the open, just waiting for me. I know this is a lousy idea, but it doesn't matter. A gap in the fence is a magnet. It just is. Chapter 24, Like a Regular Sister. Same day, Tuesday, April 2nd, 1935. It takes me longer than I thought it would to get to the gap. The hill is steep and slippery with rocks and shale, land sliding down as I go up, but the guard can't see me. A chink in the hill blocks his view. When I get to the hole in the fence, I wonder if I'll fit. The only way to tell if a ball is there is to look under the bushes, and I can't do that from over here. But what if I get stuck under the fence? What will I do? I wish I could see Natalie. I should just go back and forget about this. But then I spot a little glimmer of grayish-whitish something resting on a rock. A baseball? I search for a stick to poke under the fence to see if I can roll the ball my way. It's not close enough. Only way to find out is to go under. I sit down with a bump and stick my feet through. I scoot forward and get my knees under. This is taking too long. I have to check on Natalie. I lose my nerve and scoot back, but then I remember how hard it was getting up here. It'll take twice as long if I have to go back to see her and then climb the shale slide again. Didn't my mom say I should treat Natalie like a regular sister? I wouldn't go and check on a regular sister, that's for sure. I stick my legs under. Again, now I'm up to my waist. Zigzag chain link at the bottom pokes into my belly, but I wiggle through. The only problem now is my big shoulders. Football shoulders, my Uncle Dean calls them. I wiggle, wiggle, inch, turn my head and curl under. Now I race to the ball, but I slow down as I get close. My throat gets tight. This is not a ball. It's just a piece of cardboard. I turn it over. The back says, Circle Janet T, Janet Trixel. It's a project from the kindergarten class. I'm so angry I want to tear the circle up, but I don't. I shove it in my pocket. Then I think of Natalie. Cut your losses, I hear my dad say. I'm going straight back to her. Only I just have to peek one or two more places. It kills me to have risked all of this for nothing. Piper will get a ball for Scout, and he'll think I didn't even try. Scout and Piper, Piper and Scout. But all I find is dirt, sticks, stones, and leaves. Now I feel like a real chump. I scoot myself back under, scratching my hand on the fence. At least I don't get stuck. I tell myself as the count bell rings. The little hairs along my spine stand up. I should never have left Natalie alone here. When it's real foggy, they don't let the cons work. Is it that foggy today? I slide down the hillside as fast as I can, and there she is, her blonde brown head bent over her rocks. She's sorting them. Of course she is. Everything is fine. I blow air out in a great big sigh. I'm standing by Natalie now. She doesn't look up. Hey, Nat, everything okay here? You just been playing your game, right? 105, she says. 105, I ask, trying to catch my breath as the foghorns sound again. Is that how many rocks you have? Wow, that's a lot. I hope she doesn't plan on lugging 105 rocks home. I look closer. She has 30, maybe 40. Nowhere near 105 of them. I look up for the birds. There are 15 or so. Still, a big flock could have landed here while I was up there. She could have counted 105 birds. Sure, easy. Lots of birds, huh? 105? Wow, I say. She looks up from her rocks. I see by the slight motion of her head that she's counting the birds down by the water. Bad moose, she says. 13. 13 now? 105 before? They come and go, don't they, Natalie? 13. She's irritated now, like I'm being incredibly stupid. Natalie, count birds, 13. All right, I say, 13.